What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to Behind the Wall, presented by Perky Jerky. As always, I am Kane Jr. 88, and I am here with my lovely co-hosts, Middleburg 1 and Thermite 917. We have a great podcast for you today. We're going to discuss the previous race weekend at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We're going to hand out some awards, discuss paint schemes, bring up a random NASCAR story, and review our fantasy picks. So, gentlemen, what'd you think of the race?
Well, that was a very lovely introduction. I'd like to point that out. And, just for calling us lovely, I automatically feel happy. More happy than the Las Vegas race made me, that's for sure. It was a case of another dominated event. However, right away, I'll just say I liked it better than Atlanta. So, Martin Truex Jr. won. Good for him. Yeah, this race doesn't quite leave a bad taste in my mouth like Atlanta, I guess. That's just my general summarization to start it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just another mile-and-a-half race pretty much. It wasn't quite as bad as Atlanta. It wasn't an amazing race, although it obviously got crazy at the end. But there's really not much to say. I mean, restarts were good, but then it got strung out, after that, like after, 10 or so laps after that. But I mean, there was plenty of strategy with the stages that kind of made it more exciting than it would have been last year. So, I mean, I would just, go back to the word. It was solid.
Yeah, that's a good point that you brought up with the strategy of the stages. You kind of saw that more in this week's race than you did last week or in Daytona, perhaps. I mean, yeah, you saw a little bit of it, but I think it made maybe some more sense today. There were some people trying insane things that you didn't think were going to work, and to be honest, they really didn't. But they were ballsy, and I guess they could be commended for that, for trying to win the stage, for trying to get some points. And I guess that's what NASCAR wants, and they kind of got a small taste of it today.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to agree. Um, Obviously, there were a lot of different strategy calls there at the end. Some worked out great, others not so much. Obviously, that was unfortunate what happened to Kevin Harvick. I mean, everybody thought he was going to be a heavy favorite to win the race today, and I mean, to have a tire go down in the fastest part of the track, I mean, oh man, I shudder when I think of that. I mean, it didn't look like a very hard hit, but anyways, I'm just glad Harvick's okay. So,
And that
but that
happened really
probably
that happened really early in the race. It happened early, and quite frankly, it was super unexpected. And like you've already pointed out, it was in kind of an awkward spot of the track, and it was a bad break for him right there all of a sudden. And I don't even think the tire run was that long. It just seemed like kind of a freak incident, honestly. There were tire problems. It didn't really happen all day. It just kind of more of an isolated deal for him. So she got the shit out of the stick. That's all you can say.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, he said in his interview he had a vibration about like what 5 laps before that happened. So I don't. If it was a loose wheel, it probably would have shown that earlier in the run instead of when it blew. But all the Stewart-Haas pretty much had a rough day. It was pretty surprising after the start to the season they've had.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering how badly Harvick waxed the field last week, I mean, they just got a huge slap in the face, kind of just like continuing the bad luck from the end of the race last week. So, I, I don't know. I mean, it's weird to say about Stewart-Haas right now because it seems like the four cars picked up where they left off, which it's not really surprising, honestly. But the other cars are they're kind of lacking. I mean, yeah, Kurt Busch just won a Daytona 500. That was great, but Daytona's a crapshoot to begin with, and that race was hectic as hell, all hell. I'm not gonna say they got lucky, but at the same point, they were just in the right place at the right time. And now you've seen in these 2.5 mile racetracks that they haven't quite been up to par. Danica Patrick, no surprise there. Jesus Christ, she always runs like hell anyway. But she did run into an engine problem, and that was kind of out of her control. Clint Bowyer was just kind of mediocre all day long. Kurt Busch had a battery problem, and as well as just kind of being mediocre for the most of the event, anyways. So they obviously had a rough day, which was started off with Harvick's early tire problem, and he was out of the race for much of the event, over 200 laps of it.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt had his issues. I know he hit the wall. He also had handling issues. Boyer at least got a top 10, so that was kind of nice to see. But he was just kind of mid-pack most of the race. Then obviously Danica, blew her engine. Not really her fault, but we'll see if they can pick it up next week. It's Harvick's house there.
Yeah.
It's true that.
Coming into Phoenix, and I'm sure we'll get to that later. There was people were kind of all over the board today. Like teams were up and down, hit and miss. I wanted to say like for example, Hendrick. Today you saw like those guys weren't really all that great. Like,
Nope.
Junior didn't have a great day. It was weird. He was in the top 5 and then just kind of cascaded down. Jimmy had a up and down kind of rough day. Casey was just generally mediocre for most of the event anyways. And Chase Elliott was just like a kind of standalone. He ran in the top 5, had a pretty strong run, and got a finish where he deserved. And that was kind of the same with Joe Gibbs Racing too, because Denny didn't really have a solid day. He ended up finishing, I believe, the highest out of the Gibbs cars.
Yeah, Denny was 6th.
Yeah, Denny was
Yep.
6th. He ended up finishing 6th. Matt Kenseth, I believe, finished 8th. And Kenseth didn't really have that great of a run, hit and miss kind of all day. Daniel Suarez still struggling. He's just not there yet, that's for sure.
I really do feel sorry for Suarez. I just like to point out. I mean, he came into the season, obviously under a lot of pressure replacing Carl Edwards, but obviously with a lot of promise, having just won the Xfinity Championship last season. So you can't help but feel for the guy,
Yeah,
I mean, not only is he a rookie, but he's in a substitute driver role too now. So it's, like let's say if Carl was coming back, we'd say Suarez is doing a solid job right now. He's, getting his top 20s and he'll turn it back over. The problem is he's running the full season, so, you kind of expect a little more, but at the same time, he hasn't run this series ever. So for the start he's had, it's pretty decent. So we just got to hope he picks it up throughout the season, like he did in Xfinity and trucks.
he could be crashing and junking cars. He could be calling a Brian Scott, but he's definitely not doing that. So at least that can be commended. He's just below average right now, I guess. But my whole point to that saying was, and Kyle was the one that kind of led the flag today for Joe Gibbs Racing, and he still had his own problems and obviously eventually got wrecked out at the end. It just seemed like there was only guys were hit and miss. Like they're not. These teams don't seem as equal as you would think they are or they should be. Like you would expect, like a Hendrick, you would expect if the 24 car is running good, you would expect the 48 car to run good, the 88 car to run good, and well, Casey's just Casey. But you would still expect those guys to be to running up near the front, and it just quite kind of didn't happen today. The Penske cars were strong. I did notice that, as well as Blaney was up there too. He had a pretty solid run.
It kind of shows you, the level of competition right now, I guess, because, you don't have Olive Gibbs at the front or Olive Hendrick, but yeah, you have Kyle Larson mixing it up in there, and even McMurray got a top 10 and guys like that. So,
Right.
It's nice to not see single teams dominating right now.
Right. And that's really a good way of putting it. I don't think that there's really one team that stands out alone. Sure, there's plenty of good teams out there and plenty of capable race teams, and that just speaks volumes to how many winners we could see potentially this year. Even though you've seen 2 dominated races, I just don't, it isn't going to be the same guy every week. I think that's going to be a really good thing, and that's what the sport needs.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what else is on our list here, because we did have a lot of strategy for the stage races. That mixed things up too. I know, who was the first one that we saw stay out?
Joey
right
Logano.
at the end of that stage. Logano, yeah.
It was Logano, yeah.
And then also Jimmy Johnson did it, and they both kind of felt like a wreck. I think Jimmy fared a little better than Logano.
Yeah,
but
Joey stayed out, and that was absolutely the wrong move. And you saw he dropped like an absolute rock. He was lucky just to not get his ass completely run over and wrecked, and it looked like it was going to happen. And I would have thought after that nobody else would have tried that gamble. But, Jack and Alice and those guys in the 48 crew, they just decided, well, what the hell, we're not running like we're really worth the shit anyways. So let's just go ahead and try something, throw something at the table, and they ended up coming away with the point. But it was kind of odd considering that they were running better if they had just taken 4. Like they took, to me, it was an unnecessary gamble. They would have came away with more points had they just done what they were doing. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not the expert, but at the same time, you think it would have been more logical just to take more points instead of taking a gamble, which you already saw didn't work out with Joey Logano earlier in the race.
Yeah, because with this track, you could afford to take 2 tires, but and it was kind of the right idea because there were only a few laps in each stage. But like you said, like just taking 4 tires would have gotten the job done.
Yeah. Obviously, you'd think. Obviously, guys are trying to gain points, but it's just it scratches my head. I mean, why they would do that after they clearly saw what the result of what staying out does. I mean, obviously with how worn the track surface is at Las Vegas, tires are now more important than ever.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
it was just some weird things those guys tried. I don't know. I think you're gonna see this type of thing all year long, various different places, and how the strategy will switch up. And going on to the kind of the main point of the race, really was Truex dominating again. Just another case of a dominated race. We've already said this to begin the podcast, but Truex led the most laps by far, and it got to the end of the race, and it looked like, well, he might actually not win this one, and that's when it started getting interesting. Brad Keselowski also had a pretty good car. He could have easily won the race himself, and it looked like he was going to. He put himself in a good position. Truex's car was kind of falling away towards the end of the race, and next thing you know, Brad Keselowski just snookers his ass, goes right by him, and it looks like he's going to get the win easily. Then a caution comes out, and that's when Danica blows up. And next thing you know, what's going to happen here on the pit stops? Well, nothing. Everything comes out the same. Brad Keselowski's still out in front. And on the restart, proved the same thing. Got right out in front, and it kind of looked like this was Brad's race to lose, and it absolutely was. However, he had a tire problem, a random tire problem that came out of nowhere, which made the race ending totally crazy.
Yeah, I don't even know exactly what the problem was. I guess he said like it was bad enough to make his brakes go away and he couldn't turn, so it was something bad. Obviously, it cost him the win. So, you never know what's going to happen. You got to watch the whole thing.
Like he said in his interview, that's actually what he said. So,
yeah.
In his post-race interview on Fox. So.
Yeah, but good for Truex. I mean, he put a whole race together, and he brought home a early win, which is a good sign for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to know Furniture Row hasn't dropped off. Expanding to a second car hasn't hurt the team at all. I mean, we've seen other teams expand to multiple cars and it doesn't work. I mean, look what happened to RCR back in 2009 when they expanded to 4 cars. It did not work out very well, and they ended up shutting that 4th team down and going back to 3. So,
yeah,
but it's good to know
Eric Jones finished 15th.
Exactly. I mean, obviously for him, 15th isn't that bad, really. So,
he had a much better run than that, though.
Yeah, he did. He ran inside the top 10 almost the whole day. So overall, it was a great day for Furniture Row Racing.
Yeah. And now I think we need to get to the part of the race everyone's talking about.
That's true.
Yes, sir. The fight.
Yeah. Mr. Kyle Busch and Joey Logano on the last lap decided to have a little bit of a skirmish. Well, Brad, he had his tire going down, and I thought that was going to create some shit. Well, it kind of did, because he was slow, he was on the outside, and modestly he was keeping himself out of the way while not, just handing everybody positions. Kyle got by him, and so did Joey, and those two kind of, had almost a compromised entry into 3. Kyle went in there real deep, so did Joey. Kyle washes up the track, so does Joey. And, Joey just got too loose and got into him and kind of inadvertently crashed him. It wasn't intentional. That's exactly the way I see it.
Exactly, because, and you don't think it was at first, because I saw him going down the backstretch. Brad is slow, and Kyle gets pinned in there behind him. So instead of just waiting, he swerves pretty much into Logano. I guess he thought he had room, or maybe even not. And then it kind of looked like from the live angle that Logano just, ran up the track and dumped him. But then on the replay, you saw Logano just get loose. So whether, he just said, screw it, I'm just going to see what happens, or if he did just flat out lose it, I don't know exactly. But obviously that led to some tempers on pit road.
Which was funnier than hell, that's for sure. And Kyle left bloodied,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be
it looked like
memes are gonna be made and all sorts of shit.
Man, it looked like he got into a hockey fight almost,
Yeah. Oh, Rowdy
It's like-
Bush.
Yeah, I mean, you knew as soon as you saw Kyle get turned, you knew he was gonna go after Joey on pit road, because that's just Kyle Busch. That's just how he always is. So, I mean, you'd think after getting married and having a baby, you'd think he'd be a changed man, but today we saw the old Kyle.
Yeah, it's a
just
heat of
as
the moment
strong
and
as
everything,
ever.
but still, it kind of, shows that he still has some left in him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of mad NASCAR and Fox didn't have their cameras on them the whole time, because you knew something was going to happen because of who it was. But thank you, Jeff Gluck, for being there.
Major props to Jeff Gluck for being there at the right place at the right time. And now TMZ is using his video. I mean, that's going to really help his website now, because you have to remember Jeff Gluck is going to these races on his own dime now. He's no longer with USA Today. So he's having to pay for all these trips himself, and that video is really going to help not just him, but jeffgluck.com.
Definitely.
That's correct. And we will get into that a little bit more later with the fight. You'll see them coming up shortly in the awards. So now, why don't we have a quick race rating? What do we think? I'll go ahead and go first. I did say it's better than Atlanta. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 5 this time, a simple 5 rating. Nick, what did you think?
Well, since I gave Atlanta a 5 and I thought Vegas was a little better than that, I'll give it 6.5. Can I have that?
All right, fair enough. Alex, give us a rating.
I'm gonna say 5.5. Obviously, like Nick said, it was obviously way better than Atlanta. There was definitely a lot more racing action. Obviously, Truex dominating really didn't help much, but at least it wasn't Kyle or Brad winning. At least it was a driver that's pretty well liked by the fans. So
yeah, you know what? I'll make mine a 7 because of the fight.
yeah.
All right.
Sounds good. Alrighty, let's move on to some awards. Go ahead, Nick. Let everybody know.
All right, our first award is called Solid Run, and that is for Kyle Busch and his respectable 7th place finish in Xfinity. It's nice to see these up-and-coming drivers, with these impressive runs in the lower series. I mean, it's just nice getting those top 10s and, not dominating every week, like Keselowski.
It really warms your heart for a name like that to be made in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah,
yes,
so
it
good
does.
job for him. I mean, we'll see where his season goes, but
Alrighty, next award.
All right, our next award, we did this last week, we're going to do it again, the Boner of the Week award. And this week it goes to the spotter of the number 90 car in the Xfinity Series, Martin Waugh's car. As we saw when, who was it? Was it Ray Black Jr. that spun out?
Yes,
of course.
Sir.
Yes, it was when Ray Black Jr. spun out, and then Dakota Armstrong spun out behind him. Martin Waugh, as his name is somehow pronounced, well, apparently he didn't even slow down. He had, as what we like to call, ARCA brakes. He pretty much nailed a couple of cars, and while the damage wasn't bad, it was a really, really stupid move, not really on his part, but on his spotter's part by not clearing him enough. So, yeah, number 90 spotter, you are our Boner of the Week.
We also have an dishonorable mention in this case for Boner of the Week, and that is Eric Almirola for the little stunt he pulled on pit road during the Cup race. He decided to back up after he had missed his pit stall. Next time, just drive on through there, Mr. Smithfield. So, moving on to the next award, we have From Suck to Shit, and that completely describes the day of Stewart-Haas racing, obviously with Kevin Harvick's early exit from the race, a bad result for Kurt Busch with a battery problem, Danica Patrick's blown engine, and although Clint Bowyer did come home with the top 10, still not a terrific day for Stewart-Haas.
All right, our next award is I'll Take That. Wait, damn it. And that goes to Brad Keselowski. He passed Truex late in the race, and then he lost it. And that's all there is to it. And then we move on to the opposite of that, and that's got screwed again. Never mind. That goes to Martin Truex Jr., obviously, who almost threw away another race and then got it right back. So good for him. And then next we're moving on to our signature, well, Jimmy Spencer's signature categories. And the first one is the Cigar Award. So Kane, take it away.
So this week's Cigar Award, well, it's a little bit surprising. It actually goes to Kyle Busch for having the balls to actually go up to Joey Logano and try to punch him. Well, actually, no. He did punch him. He actually laid on his chin a little bit, but Logano lied and said that he didn't get hit. What the hell, Joey? But despite landing a punch on Logano, Kyle still got his ass kicked by the members of the 22 team. And surprisingly enough, Tom Logano, Joey's father, wasn't there to defend his son. My God, what the heck?
Oh boy. It's that time again. And we are handing out another crying towel. And again, this award has to go to Mr. Rowdy Busch. Oh, Kyle! Not again! Hey, Kyle! The last time I checked, menstruation cycles only last 3 to 5 days. Yours has lasted a whole damn month. Now, if Mars ever smartens up and decides to lead your candy ass, there will be plenty of other sponsor options to soothe your cry pussy, such as Vaciclean or Tampax Ultra. Also, Samantha, she's lucky she has plastic tits, or else you and Braxton would be getting your daily vitamins at the same time, you fucking milky liquor. You're 31, Kyle. Cut this shit already. Come on, man.
Oh, man.
Wow. That is your crying towel, Mr. Rowdy Busch. You deserve it this time. Oh, just like the past.
That's the language there.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes. I told you. I had some severe roasting and perhaps unnecessaries of the wife and kids. However, he threw such a fit today, he just deserved it.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up the awards. I love the crying towel.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Alrighty, that's time of the podcast. We're going to talk paint schemes. Which one do we like on the race weekend? I'll go ahead first, get mine out of the way. I like Trevor Bayne's car. First time that car running this season. The black and yellow cars. It just really, it complemented itself well. It just looked good. And, you know, that's really all I have to say about it. Performance plus motor oil. It has some nice cool little gradients. It's just a solid looking car. It's not overly flashy or simple. You know, it just looks well and it works. Nick, go ahead.
All right, mine's, pretty much the same kind of description. It's Matt Kenseth's Blue Death Diesel Exhaust Fluid Toyota. And it's just a nice, refreshing-looking scheme. It's mostly white with some blue spikes on the side. Michael Waltrip has used the sponsor in the past, and it's kind of a similar paint scheme to Clint Boyer's Peak paint schemes, and I think Kenseth is actually going to run that sponsor in Fontana. So we're looking forward to another similar version there. So yeah, good scheme.
Yeah, and this week I'm actually going to go with Casey Kane's Liftmaster Chevrolet. It's definitely a different scheme than what he's run in the past. Usually they're white and maroon is what he's run in the past, but this is definitely a huge change. I mean, I really like the black and silver, especially in the sunlight. I like that they went with like a more like metallic silver instead of like just a drab looking gray color. So that really popped out in the sun very well. Yeah, it's definitely different than what I'm used to seeing him run, and I can't wait to see it hit the track again.
Now that we got our good ones out of the way, I'd also like to point out a honorable mention, kinda. We've been giving this team a lot of shit the last couple of weeks, but they came out with a much more colorful car, I guess you could say, and they at least put a little bit of effort in it. Rick Ware Racing with Timmy Hill's number 51, the Dash Hub car, whatever the hell that is.
At
Better.
least it's not George Spoonington.
At least it's not George Spoonington. That's correct. So props to them for that. Not great paint scheme, but they at least tried more. And that gets into the worst paint scheme in a week. And to clarify this one, we don't necessarily hate this car. It's just kind of weird, and some of the choices were odd on this car. That is David Reagan's Juice Batteries Ford. This car looks like it should be running in October, promoting candy.
Yeah,
So,
juicy candy apparently.
yeah, juicy
Yeah.
candy, juicy cat, whatever.
It almost reminds me. It almost reminds me of the Gravedigger monster truck. Almost, it's the same colors.
Yeah,
Almost.
kind
In
of
a
does.
Yeah.
way, it's a weird paint scheme, and I think the worst part of the car is the rear and quarter panel sections. I think it kind of really throws off the design. It doesn't help the flow whatsoever, and it just hurts its overall value. You know, not the worst we're going to see of the year, that's for sure, but still just an odd looking one. So that's it.
Yeah.
And that covers all the paint schemes. Alrighty, this time we're gonna add something new to the podcast. We're going to talk about a personal NASCAR story, and this time the topic at hand will be your first ever NASCAR race. Mine, it was the 2005 race at Richmond, the spring race. Casey Kane got his first career win that night. I was getting ready to turn 10 years old, and it was a cool little experience. I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. That's where I was born, and like we were never planning to go to Pocono. I didn't really want to go to Pocono, so we had a family friend that bought race car parts from us, and they had this tour company, and it was just basically a race tour. We got on a charter bus with a bunch of other people, and we all rode to the racetrack, and you know, um, kind of just had a day or whatever, a festivities or all, whatever shit going on with the race, and uh, we got transportation there and back, and I sat in turn two. It was an all right seat from what I remember. Um, that it was a good experience. I mean, like it was a lot of fun. Remembering as a kid, I didn't even eat anything all day long because I was just that. I guess you can just call it that excited, or just like I just wanted to get there. I wanted to experience it, and definitely something I won't ever forget. Obviously, with Casey King getting his first win, that was a cool deal. Um, I I think it was Jeff Gordon or whatever crashed out earlier that night, earlier in the race, and
Hmm.
I didn't like Jeff Gordon at the time, so that was pretty cool for me. Just
Yeah.
because I'm that type of person, I'm excited when people I don't like crash. Uh, Junior didn't have the greatest of races or whatever. Came up with I guess semi decent okay result. 2005 wasn't a great year for
Believe
him.
believe he ran 14th that night.
Well, I'm glad you remember that, Mr. Encyclopedia. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a real cool deal, and I always have a ticket and stuff like that to remember it by. Junior was on the ticket because he had won the race the year before. Um,
That's
so
why it
yeah.
was disappointing because he was the reigning champion of the race. Yeah.
Oh yes, I know. But for 10 years old for your first race, it was cool. I don't give a shit. I still
Yeah,
remember Greg Biffle was on
absolutely.
the pole that night.
That was like the year he was the man to beat, you know.
Yeah, it's. I think. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Now I'm thinking about Mr. 69, Greg Biffle. So I'm glad that's on my mind. Nick, why don't you go ahead and tell us your first race?
All right, so my first race wasn't that long ago. Yeah, wasn't that long ago. It was 2013. I think I was like 20 years old then. Um, it was at Chicagoland in September. Um, it was a chase race, I believe. Um, and it was quite an eventful race, I believe. I won tickets first of all. I forgot how, but it was quite nice. Didn't have to pay for that one, although we did go to the truck and Xfinity races as well, which also included ARCA. Um, but it was a great experience. We had infield passes for the truck race, and our main seats were in the grandstands near the turn one side. And for the cup race, that had a long rain delay, if you remember. Um, they got, I forgot how many laps in, but then, and it was a day race at the time. So it started pouring, and a lot of people decided to go home. And, you know, it was my first race. I'm like, we got to stick this thing out. And it was the most boring thing waiting, but, you know, it was all, you know, that much nicer because I was at the track. It was just, you know, just a great place to be. And they eventually got the jet drives back out there and fired up the engines, and I went, you know, back to the stands. And my favorite driver, I really like to say, Matt Kenseth won, so that was nice. And it ended so late. I actually stayed. I called in sick from school the next day, so you know.
You dog.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a great day overall, and I've been back every year since then.
Alrighty, Kane, let us know.
Now, before I do mine, does it have to be our first NASCAR race or our first Cup race?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay. All right. Well, because like Tyler, my first race was in 2005, and like Nick, it was at Chicagoland Speedway. It was actually the Busch Series race on the Saturday, back when they ran in July. It was a really hot day, really. I mean, I don't know how many layers of sunscreen I had to wear. In fact, I actually threw up on the way home. Like my mom actually had to pull over on the highway because I was about to puke, and
Man.
yeah, probably from dehydration because I had a lot of pop to drink. So
And that's funny you say that real quick, because a couple years ago, my neighbors went to a race in the summer. I think it was the summer one, and one of the kids, they had to call an ambulance because he had heat exhaustion.
Jesus
So
Christ.
yeah, so it's pretty crazy.
wow.
I've got it. You know what? I've
Well,
got an interesting story to add after this, and I'm gonna do it just because we can. It's our podcast. We do whatever the hell we want. So, Kane, you finish your story first.
okay. Well, first of all, it was actually interesting how I got the tickets. My Boy Scout leader was actually a huge. She and her husband were huge NASCAR fans, and then she and their son, they didn't want to go to the Busch Series race. So they're like, how'd you give it to that one guy in your troop who's a huge NASCAR fan? So they gave the 2 extra tickets to me and my mom, and let me just say it was one of the happiest days of my life. It was, even though it was a Busch Series race, it was still a NASCAR race, and the fact that I had never been to one before, I mean, this really put me in. I was in heaven, you know. I mean, we went to like all the exhibits and stuff outside, got a bunch of free stuff just like you do at every race. And we actually got in the track early and watched Cup practice. And I remember my mom back with our little film camera back before they had like digital cameras. My mom was taking a bunch of pictures for me, and we actually did get. That was the first time I'd ever seen Junior on the track, you know, and that was, of course, the very next day. You know, he ended up winning his only race of 2005 at Chicagoland, and
That's right.
that's actually why that victory stands out to me, because the day before that I went to my very first race. And now, granted, I just want to get this out of the way. Half the field that day was Cup drivers. All right, if you think Cup drivers are a big problem today in the Xfinity Series, you should have seen the field back then. I believe it was 19 Cup drivers in the field for the Busch Series race that day, and
That's pathetic.
I know. And I don't remember any Busch Series regulars leading any laps. I remember Ryan Newman dominated the race, but then I guess he lost it on pit road, and Kevin Harvick ended up winning back when he drove the Reese's car, which I believe I have the diecast for that. So yeah, so that was definitely a very memorable day, even though even though the race results weren't that exciting, and it was a really hot day that I got sick on the way home. But it was definitely definitely not a day to forget, and I'm still thankful to my scout leader for getting me those tickets. He didn't have to do that, but they did anyways, and I'm forever thankful for that.
He's the MVP.
Yeah.
And speaking of the dehydration thing, here's the story I wanted to share, and I don't even think I told you guys this. You remember when Dale Jr. was on the Shaq versus Shaq, the basketball player?
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yes.
I had to miss that because I was at band camp and my parents kept filling me in on what was going on. It was like,
This one time at band camp? Yeah.
yeah, this one time at band camp, I had to miss Shaq versus Dale Jr.
Well, that was not exciting, okay? But let me
Oh no.
just say this. I actually went to the taping. It was at Concord Motorsport Raceway Park or whatever the hell it is. Small track around here, local, in the Carolinas.
So basically where the late models just raced this weekend, I believe.
That's correct. Exactly there. That's where the taping was held, and that was probably the hottest day I've ever experienced outside doing something. Holy shit. They were having to hand out water after water after water because people were literally going down because of dehydration. And I don't know, I don't remember, I don't want to over exaggerate the story, but there were people that went down. There were people that legitimately got sick. I don't know if they had to call an ambulance or anything like that, but yeah, that was not a pleasant day, and especially for what happened, it was just a joke. The whole thing was just so stupid, and you really got to see how reality TV is so fucking scripted. It was stupid, but at the same time, it was kind of cool. Just being there. I hadn't met Junior until that point, and I didn't meet him that day either. I missed out on that chance actually because they had to leave before the complete end of it. But yeah, that's my experience with the dehydration thing. Luckily, I didn't go down, or any of my family either. But alrighty, that was a good sharing of NASCAR stories. Hopefully, we'll do something like that again sometime soon. Alrighty, now we've moved on to fantasy picks, and we're gonna quickly recap how our picks did in Vegas. I picked Chase Elliott, number 24. Although it wasn't his first career winning day, he did come out on top for me with a third place result. And Nick came home in dead last, picking Harvick. With what did he finish? 38th. And
38th.
Yep.
38th.
And Kane got finished second with Kenseth, solitary 8th place finish.
Nice.
So, kicking off the fantasy standings. Happy to be out front. And this week for Phoenix, I'm going to go ahead and pick Harvick. Hopefully, I can't say that I want to see him win, but I think he can win. Harvick has been extremely dominant at Phoenix. We already know that. Even though he wasn't as great in the last race there, I still think that this is literally the perfect storm for him. He just came off of losing a really tough race and wrecking out early in one. So it's kind of, like the real good opportunity for him to just come out and just get his first win of the season. It's pretty much inevitable. It'll probably get a W at some point. So why not come back to the place he's been kicking ass and just do it? Kane, who are you picking?
Yeah, well, this is a toss-up. Outside of Kevin Harvick, Phoenix is really a big toss-up. But I'm going to go with a former winner here. He's actually won quite a few races at this track. Jimmy Johnson. I believe he won 4 in a row here from like 2007 to 2009 or something like that. He had an impressive winning streak here for a while, but of course that was 8 years ago, and Obviously, it's the cars are way different, but I mean, if anybody can turn their luck around, it is the reigning series champion, and that's Jimmy Johnson. So I'm gonna go with the 48.
All right. So that leaves me. And first of all, Tyler, that's what I thought after Atlanta, that Harvick was going to come back and win Las Vegas, but you saw how
Mm-hmm.
that went. But anyway, I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. Um, he's off to a pretty hot start this year. Obviously couldn't pull off Las Vegas, but, you know, just off to a strong start, and he seems like, he can win pretty much anywhere right now. He doesn't have the best record at Phoenix, I don't believe, but I just think, his sneaky strategy and he just always seems to be there at the end. He might be able to pull it off.
Good picks, guys. Alrighty. That wraps it all up. We've covered all our points, and we'll be ready to tackle Phoenix next week. Obviously, review the race and our fantasy picks and paint schemes and all sorts of other crap, and whatever we come up with. So, uh, great job, guys, again for Mr. Kane, Junior 88, Mr. Alex, Thermite 917, Nick, and myself, Middleburg 1, or Tyler. You've been behind the wall, presented by Perky Jerky. And we appreciate you listening. If you do, hopefully we'll get up to 20 views this time. And, alrighty, see you next week.